Mayor Moore.
Here.
Trustee Trombley.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Trombley.
Here.
Trustee Garrett. Here.
Okay, this time we would accept a motion to approve minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Wait a second.
Second.
Any discussion, or additions or corrections? If not, all in favor of approving minutes of the previous meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes are approved. At this time we have presentation of petitions, communications, and notices and general question period. And tonight we have County Legislator McManus here to give us an update on what's happening at the county.
Okay, I'm sure you get the monthly sales tax figures, but I did want to, again, mention the fact that they are down again for another month. The towns and villages are 63,000, which divided by the number isn't that much, but clearly in all the budgetary processes, especially at the town level, they've always got a little push at the end more than they have anticipated, and that, you know, would appear is not going to happen. We're almost 200,000 down in the county. So, you know, it's what it is. The economy is hopefully marching back slowly, but for right now, and I think you guys have, I think the towns have received some modified figures for their budgetary process for the upcoming year, so you may even be getting less in terms of our estimates for your budgetary process next year. Notwithstanding the previous discussion, the numbers for, as I said, for Cape Air, they were averaging, 4 to 6 people per flight, and US Air, Colgan Air is averaging 20 to 25 out of a possible 34. And when you do the math in terms of the numbers that we had hoped for, it's just about where we had hoped to be. So, you know, I think in the last monthly average, Cape Air had 468 people flying, and Colgan had 1,413. So it's pretty staggering in terms of the overall numbers. But obviously, we need to be attentive if there are people with problems, especially people who talk to a lot of other people. It makes a difference, and word of mouth is extremely important. I think I mentioned the parking issue the last time. We are sending it out in a request for proposals. We're hoping to get at least 2 back, one of which we hope will include indoor parking. And what we would do is put a fee on the parking, probably somewhere between, well, we could set it, but then the percentages of what we get to keep are much smaller. They need to make a certain amount of money, especially they're going to handle all the collection. And I believe if we choose that particular firm, they'll be putting the building up. So it could be anywhere between $5 and $10 a day. Hopefully it'll be enough of a deterrent. And also we'll have long-term parking versus short-term parking, which is another problem. I don't know whether you guys have gotten into any parking issue problems, but I know the field is, we had to open another field up, not even macadam, just to put cars in. And some of them have been there, I would say been there 4 to 6 months in some cases. And of course, you know, some of the Canadian people fly down in November and they plan to pick up their car in April, and it's fantastic for them, but it isn't fantastic, especially if they take a front area. So we're going to try and do something about that too, and try and get them in a long-term area. The latest of the Pfizer facilities meetings, Jeff, you've been going, I know. You know, I guess the biggest thing that I would say is that we're now down to every other month meeting instead of once a month, which I think says an awful lot. And the latest concept is probably one of, you know, trying to parcel out parts of each building and then try to get a buyer, so that you would get smaller businesses to come in, whether it's over here in Rouse's Point or down in Shazy, and get 2 or 3 of those, and then try to sell the building, and it would continue much like they did here with Harris. I think that's probably what happened initially when Harris closed. They weren't able to get anybody else, but they were able to sell portions of the building out. So that's the new concept. But I just remember sitting there hearing, well, we're gonna skip a month, and for those of us that have been an awful lot, there's a lot of times when you can blink your eyes after 45 minutes and say, was this the August meeting, or was this the June meeting, or Gary Douglas tries to, make it more interesting. One more thing, again, I think I mentioned this before, but I wanted to again remind people that term limits are on the ballot this year at the behest of the legislature. It was a fairly protracted vote in the sense that some people felt very strongly about it. I took the position that I didn't see anything wrong with the people reaffirming the decision they made back in 1996, but having said that, I mean, I've become a firm believer that term limits are it's just my personal opinion, that are the only chance this country has. And I hate to put too fine a point on it, but that's what I believe in. I believe in democracy, but, it's just, anyway. So, but it is on the ballot. As you remember, we drew a long straw this legislative area, so it doesn't affect us that much, but in that process, we're also a 4-year slot term, not a 2-year. And a couple of the people that are hoping that term limits get overturned because they'd like to run again are in the 2-year spot. So it would mean a 2-year commitment for them. Our neighboring legislator here, Sam Trombley, who I sort of told him he needed to come out of Ellenburg with about a 1,500 vote margin if he wanted any chance at all at this thing passing, but I don't think that's going to happen. The other thing that I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes on, we did pass the firefighter legislation, so I wanted to give you a quick handout on that and just talk a little bit about it. And basically, what we have here is, and I mean, you know what the legislative intent is. If you talk to the firemen, it's very simple. They can't get new recruits, and they can't retain people without some kind of, financial consideration. I know that I was talking to John Southwick, and he was telling me that, they're going to some merchants now that's even down to trying to see if they can get a break on, whether they buy gas or whether they buy groceries or something, if there's something they can do. But the bottom line is the state passed it finally after 2 years of urging, and I give Janet Dupree a lot of credit for that, because she really pushed it in the assembly. And it's a 10% reduction. Now, if you do the math, and the figures that you have on that sheet are based upon Rouse's point, what is the tax rate in the village of Champlain? Is it
432.
So it might be a little bit higher than the $32 a thousand. And what this basically means is that for firemen and women who have been in the department, either the EMTs, ambulance, or firemen, they've been in 5 years, they end up with a 10% tax reduction. Each taxing jurisdiction has to vote separately. The county, we held our public hearing and no one showed up, and we voted in favor of it. So the county tax at nearly $6 is now 10% forgiven. The problem we're coming into here is that they're up against a $200 income tax reduction, and you can't use both. So you end up having to go with either this tax reduction of the property tax, and it has to be over $200. What that means is that if all the taxing jurisdictions, county, town, village, school, if they all sign on, then a person with a home of about $65,000 to $70,000 would begin to sit, would be more than 200. If you were in the $200,000 range, obviously that would be significantly more. So, and when we talked the last time, you guys did not offer exemptions. Is that the general policy, or you don't offer a veterans exemption, or?
Yes.
You do? Oh, you do offer one? Oh, okay.
Senior citizen.
And a senior citizen, okay, well, I must have misunderstood that. So, I have the specific legislation here for a local law, and if you, I can, I don't, maybe on the car, I don't know, if not, I can have it emailed to you, which is the one we used, which would allow you to do that. But the bottom line is that the county went first, our budget is right now. The town of Champlain, I guess, is voting this month on that because their taxing jurisdiction is also by the calendar. Yours goes, if I remember correctly, is it June 1st? Yes. So, and the budget has to be in place. It's first presented, is it March? It seems to me I used to present a budget in March and you vote on it in April. Is that what it was? I don't remember when I was mayor. Anyway, so you're next and you'll have to make a decision. Then it's the school. And I made my presentation already to the superintendent and to a board member. They don't give any of them. So, and it doesn't work without the $20 1,000 from the school. It just doesn't work. You'd have to have, I mean, I suppose if you had a farmer with you know, the value of the farm at 500,000 or 700,000, maybe you could get, it would be $1.30 1,000. So it'd have to be at least 200 and some odd thousand anyway, just to start to break even. So I think what's going to happen, I hope what happens is it's a momentum building thing. The county already voted to do it. Hopefully the towns will vote this month to do it. That would be Champlain and Morris, but it's the whole county, it's all the towns. Then the villages would come in, and finally, as a united group, whether it would be advocates from the villages, the towns, and the counties, and the firemen, if there's some resistance, you know, potentially attend a school board meeting. The problem, part of the problem is, and they are asking legitimate questions, which are, first of all, how many people what's it going to cost us? It's a more general question. It's a little hard to determine because you've got to have, first of all, you have to be in the department 5 years. Secondly, you have to be a property owner. And, you know, I mean, under freedom of information, we can get that information, but I'm not sure I want to know that. I think all we're going to do is provide numbers. I don't know, do you have numbers of the Champlain Fire Department, the Village Fire Department? How many are in there? Is it 30?
It's a fire district, so that.
It's a district.
Have those numbers.
So it'd be both? Yeah. And they will vote actually separately also. The fire district also gets a chance to vote. They have two taxes, I believe. One's about $1.20 and the other's about 40 cents, and they'll get a chance to vote separately also. So, but again, I guess your tax rate's a little higher than Rouse's Point, so it'd be in the $34 area if you voted. But the key is to get the school involved, and you know, I would like to hope that what we could do is go to the school with the 4 taxing jurisdictions already voting yes, and then, you know, go from there. The strategy also at the state level, there are 29 counties that are involved in this program out of the 62 counties that are in the state, and we're hoping to have legislation put forth which will allow for a coupling of the $200 plus. So they get $200 plus the 10% tax break. And, you know, I can't tell you, I mean, how many people are going to be recruited by this. I can't tell you how many people are going to decide to stay, but I think it's the beginning of a process. During the campaign and every time I go and speak at a fireman's dinner, you know, this is what they tell me. It's very, very hard to get people, and it's very hard to keep them. And anything that the government can do, and this is one thing, we have no control over the income part of it, but we do have some control over the property. So if you had 20 people in Champlain, just to give you an example, and they averaged, let's say, $300-400 a piece, you know, that would be your piece of the puzzle. I don't know what that would translate. I did some math this morning with one of the school board members, and it was actually on now again, it's a $26 million budget that the school has, but it was less than a penny on the tax rate. So whether or not yours would translate here to the same thing, I don't know. But I think it would be a nominal fee. I don't think it would be anything major. So I don't know whether you had any questions about, you know, how this works or what needs to be done. You don't need to do anything right now until, you know, when are you the budget officer, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's
when
not
you
until spring.
But when do you start putting it together, February or March?
January, February.
January 1st, okay. See, back in the old days, we could get away with February, you can't do that anymore, you gotta start right away. And who knows what's going on at the state, I mean, that's the other thing, I don't know. I mean, the county, I was talking to Mike Zoll this morning, and it's just, it's a nightmare. He's finally put some figures together, and, you know, I don't know what we're talking about. You probably saw the figures in Franklin County, where, I mean, it was like, you know, a 30% tax increase. You know, and that'll never pass in Franklin County, it'll never pass here either. I had no idea what we're gonna come up with, and we have all these contract agencies now that are calling us that got cut, like the literacy volunteers. You know, they got cut, I don't know how much money, and they like the county to do something. It's a great program. I mean, it's a fantastic program. It gets people, you know, not only literate, but it gets them employed. It, you know, it works through a whole process. I don't know how we do that. So, you know, it's going to be a tough year all the way around. And this, you know, somebody said to me, this is not a good time for the firefighters. Well, okay, I can accept that. But when is a good time? I don't know when a good time is. I mean, to me, we finally got the legislation passed, and now is the time to do it. And as I said, I don't know whether you'll be able to get exact figures as to what it would cost the village of Champlain, but I don't think it's going to be an awful lot of money. I just don't think so. Anyway, yes.
I have a question about it. There's no question that we need to do something for these men and women who, you know, volunteer their time in the middle of the night and, you know, save our houses, our families, you know. Other than the stipulation of 5 years, is it like, you know, are they just signed up to be a fireman? Are they actually participating? You know, being the devil's advocate, would people just sign up and never really go to a fire or go through training?
I don't think you can, I don't think you can maintain.
Oh, okay, she's answered that.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what was the answer?
If they don't participate or go to, they have to meet a minimum
Yeah.
calls per year. If they don't, then they're
Yeah.
terminated.
And there's also work nights too that you have to.
Yeah,
provide
that's,
info.
When I talked to some of the other counties, they allowed the fire department to be the ones to stipulate who was in fact in good standing. And I didn't ask the next question, which was exactly what that meant. But, you know, the key is active member, to continue your active member status. I would assume there's some, you know, floor level that you, minimum standards. A lot of them are, you know, way above that, but still there are some minimums. And one of the other things that I don't know whether I include that in there, but there is, if they are in there for 20 years, it continues after if they get 20 years of service in, then it will continue after they become inactive and retire. So that's just so you should know that. So it would be something that once they get 20 years in. But so I don't know whether there are any other questions that you'd have about it. But the villages obviously have some time. I'm not, when I made a presentation last week over in Rouse's Point, at the Rouse's Point meeting, and you all know George Rivers, so I'm not 100% sure if he's going to take this ball and run with it right away, or if he's going to wait, but there seem to be, of the 4 people present, they seem to be pretty much in favor of passing this. So whether or not they do it right away or not, I don't know. And the other issue that I wasn't aware of, because of course it's only for volunteer firemen, so we were not thinking too much about the city of Plattsburgh, but you have all the people who are in the volunteer fire departments outside of the city that live in the city. And so the city of Plattsburgh is still going to have to deal with the issue. And so is the city of Plattsburgh School Board. They're going to have to deal with that issue because, you know, I was thinking, well, it's a paid firefighting force, so of course they're not eligible. But people inside, who live inside the city but are members of the departments outside, they will have to, they'll have to do something for them too. So it's an issue that's going to be all across the county. But what I'm hoping is that we will become the template here in Champlain and Moores for the rest of the county. That what we do will be watched very closely. We may be a year ahead of some of them, but that, you know, and that's why that school board piece is extremely important. I should have an idea sometime around 9:30. I'm supposed to get a call tonight from people I know on the school board to see what kind of reception it got in terms of well, at least a majority vote. So we'll see. They're not gonna take a vote, but just to see where that is, because that is, without it, it's not even worth it. Any other questions? I don't want to
I
take too long.
just,
or-
you had said earlier that you had to own property.
Yes. Yep. So that would eliminate, I don't know how
You
many people.
can't rent from somebody
That's
and
right.
collect them.
No, you have to be a landowner, and, you know, and talking to some of the younger people, you know, not that it's gonna make a decision one way or another, but it's a nice thing to think about, that they could aspire to being a homeowner, and know that when they do, if they're still a fireman at that point, they'll receive a 10% tax reduction, so that is it's a good thing, so.
Those members still are eligible though for the state reduction, correct? The income tax?
Well, yes, the state reduction is there, but you can't take both.
Right.
So if they can't total up to that $200, they'll still get the 200.
Right.
What we're pushing for in the next legislative session is to allow them to get both. That's what we're pushing for. Anybody else? Well, thank you again, very much. Always nice to be here and listen to and have a dialogue and so on. That's good.
Thank you for coming.
We very much appreciate your updates.
Okay, very good. Very
Have a
good.
good evening.
Okay, thanks. I'll let you get on with your meeting. Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Codes and enforcement report tonight, so, mayor's report, I have nothing to report tonight. Move on to trustees, trustee Champlain.
The only thing I have is I've been approached by some village residents on the paving on Elm Street. I told them that I assumed that the delay in the paving was because of the weather last week, the torrential downpours that we had, and they also commented on the potholes that were starting to develop again on Elm Street. I spoke with Larry just before the meeting, and he confirmed that, yes, they've kind of gotten backed up because of the rain, but hopefully next Thursday
Yeah, they're finishing the Valley Road.
in the
They got
Hemingford
3 days
Road.
on Hemingford Road, and he said he hopes to be here Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday, okay.
So,
And that you're also going to fill in
and I have a truckload
some
of
of
gravel
those
for the potholes,
potholes.
but I don't wanna fill them and have to take them from 3-4 times.
Right,
The
so,
big ones I'll take care of, but kinda slows the traffic down too. I had a guy tonight come down through,
yeah, you can't go very
in the
fast.
front of his muffler. His pipe was hanging forward. He stopped at where he got the cut across the road, turned around and back down the road into the driveway.
Okay, so,
Right.
people are curious as to when
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna finish up, so.
Is it
that's-
gonna be too cold for it to take effect?
Oh, no. No, the plant's open till Thanksgiving.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Kim. Trustee Martin?
Just a reminder to our residents that the fall pickup days, Wednesday, October 27th, and Wednesday, November 3rd. No brush larger than 1 inch in diameter must be put in clear plastic bags. Brush must be reduced to fit completely into the bag. No loose brush will be picked up as it's been for the last couple of years. And also on the week of October 18th to the 22nd, the village personnel will be flushing hydrants, so you can expect some discoloration in your water during that time period. And if I could just, I'm glad, or I appreciate the patience of people who, are waiting to get Elm Street completed, and we will complete it. And I'd also like to thank the village crew for the preparation work that they put in, the drainage and everything else that had to be accomplished before paving can be done on Elm Street. It's a very heavily traveled street, and everything that you've done is greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Trustee Champlain?
I was just gonna reiterate what Greg said, was I know there's a lot of work involved in getting those, the drainage put in for street and stuff like that. And it will get completed, the weather has hampered everything.
Just so, probably the public want to know too, the grate going across Prospect and the grate going up Walnut Street, the big grate, is going to be raised 3 inches, so you're not going to have such a dip. So, I got the grates all made, all framed, we can't put them until they tar.
So essentially, the grade and the pitch of the intersection can be a little smoother.
Correct, yeah.
That's true. That's all I have on there.
Thanks, Tom. Trustee Garrett?
Reminder that the village will be holding a Halloween costume party at St. Mary's on October 30th, that's Saturday at 11 a.m. And all kids are welcome. It'll be for ages, as long as they can walk, until age 15. So 11 a.m., Saturday the 30th. Any questions, call the village office. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Now, have a report from clerk treasurer.
Everyone's been copied with the September revenues and expense report. And Donna and I attended schooling at NICOM and Lake Placid the week of September 20th through 24th. We received some interesting information, updates. And today I went to the archive class in Plattsburgh. So hopefully we'll get our retention schedule and our back room straightened.
Yay.
And we also have a water and sewer billing. Our water was $56,019.33. And the sewer billing was $89,311.50.
Okay, at this time I would entertain a motion to pay the warrant for the month.
And everyone's got a copy of the additional invoices,
Yeah, that motion.
because our board meeting is a week early. The additional invoices total $4,038.92.
So moved?
We have a second?
Second.
Second, good. Any discussion?
I have one question to find it. GE Capital, what is that? It's a loan?
It's our copier.
The copier. Cute.
It's the
Oh, that's right.
NICIC Solutions, and the G Fund, 1823, is it usually that high? Is this that high?
That's a waste
That's a
of
wastewater.
Plant.
Will that rain?
I just kind of stuck out there with a sore
Bring
thumb.
me up to- I'll turn
If there's no further discussion, trustee Trombley,
Aye.
trustee Ballard,
Aye.
trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
trustee Garrett,
Aye.
or aye. Okay, we'll now have the report from the superintendent.
You all have a copy of my work log in front of you. Like I say, we built frames, help with the DOT, and we got them already, put in the 2 streets to raise them. We made one more frame to raise one of the DIs today, and fix the water service up on top of Prospect. And just waiting for the guy to come with the car. I have a little gravel in the truck, and I just have to fill the holes and back drag it with the loader, and he said they'll go from there. You see, myself, Jimmy, and Terry went to a perma class Thursday, last Thursday. It was a hearing class. They checked your hearing and stuff,
Mhm.
got a computerized sheet and stuff. Mr. Kissel didn't want to go, so it was part of lunchtime, so couldn't mandate it. And besides that, the hydrant up on the corner of Church and South got clipped, and I can't get parts for that old Mueller hydrant. I called today and I priced a new hydrant. I didn't get a price back on it, but I'm gonna have to repair that hydrant. And what I like to do, I like to put it on the opposite side of the sidewalk, because it's right in that corner, and it doesn't have a valve, so we may have to shut part of Blue Street down, or shut part of the village down for a couple hours. But I just like to be okay to get a hydrant and have it ready, because when I dig it up, I have to fix it.
Hit by a vehicle?
Mhm.
You get hit by a vehicle?
Got hit by a vehicle, took the cap right off from it, got the sign, but had it investigated and couldn't find anything. But, I mean, it is right on the intersection, and I'd like to put it back on the lawn and get it out of there. So, but I'm just waiting on a price, but if he comes back with a price and I have time between now and the next meeting to take it up, I'd like just the approval to get it. You're probably looking at a couple grand.
Okay, we bring it up under new business. What streets?
It's the hydrant on the corner of Church and South.
Isn't that the last hydrant before the town?
The town, correct. There's one over on the corner by Border View, and there's one on the corner of South and Spruce, and there's one down by Art Bedard's house on Church Street.
So when we do work on it, then we want to make sure to notify the town when fire
Correct.
protection is down, so they would know
Yeah.
about it.
Well, that's why I want to dig down and got to find out, because I don't believe there's a valve on it, so that means I'm
Are you
gonna
gonna rebuild or replace the hydrant?
I'm gonna replace it, because it's an old Mueller hydrant, so,
And move it, okay.
and I'm gonna move it back. And the guys did do some, when we were doing the work on Elm Street and stuff, there was a lot of branches and trees hanging low. We're hitting with the truck, so I had to go around, they trimmed up a bunch of stuff, even along the sidewalk, so. And I did get some batteries for that chatterbox on Bush Station, Main Street. I have it in, the guys and I gotta call them tomorrow and set up a time, and we're gonna go through and set that back up.
Okay, very good.
And that's about it.
Does everybody know what Larry was talking about? We had a failure on the chatterbox for the Main Street lift station. Very important that we get notified when there's high levels of water. I mean, this time there was enough water, everybody knew about it, and they went down and checked it, but it was alarming and we didn't get notified, so we
Yeah,
need to
the
have
light
that.
come on, and we maintained it and made sure it was,
Last week during heavy rains.
Yeah.
It was close to 3 inches of rain here in advance, so it's not normal, but I guess it's becoming normal. Unusual weather. Okay, thanks, Larry. Juanita, can you read the correspondence?
We have various invoices for lawn mowing. Correspondence from Underwater Solutions regarding water tank inspection. Correspondence from New York State DEC regarding discharge monitoring reports available on the web. Correspondence from Champlain Fire District regarding fire hydrants. Correspondence from Northern Housing with their annual donation. Letter to Gary Clark regarding zoning violation at his property at 732 Prospect Street. Letter from New York State DOT regarding highway inventory. Letter from Clinton County Department of Personnel regarding 2010 payroll certification.
Thanks, Juanita. Nothing new under old business. Does anyone else have any other business?
Is anything happening with the cameras and the grant money for that and all of that? You kind of like fell off the face of the earth.
Larry has
I ran
seen
into
Sheriff Favreau.
Dave Favreau. In fact, it was down at the fair,
Uh-huh.
and I tried to get money to have new fence put around the top of the tank, and
Right.
they wouldn't go for that. They're still working on the cameras, but there was another grant out there that he tried to get me $3,000 as a fence. He said he hasn't forgot about us, but it's nipping tough to it, so if we get it.
Anything we can do to push this through? Need anything to help calling them?
Keep calling them.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other old business? And if not, we have under new business, I guess, do you have a dollar amount, Larry, or?
On the
Up to a
hydrant,
certain
I, last time we bought, they were about $1,400 for hydrant. I'm gonna try to, it doesn't have a valve, I'll try to use one of my valves I have in the back. If not, we're probably looking at $300-400 for a valve. So,
Up to that 1,000.
I figure around 2,000.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion to replace and remove the Church and South Street hydrants?
So I'll make a motion to replace the broken hydrant and relocate it in a safer location.
Second,
Is there any discussion?
set a dollar now, or just?
Did you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
What was the max dollar amount?
I took around $2,000.
I'll amend that motion to be
That's close.
to up to $2,000 to replace that hydrant.
Okay, is that great?
Second.
Okay, so a second. Is there any discussion?
What account will that come out of?
Water.
Just the general? Or would we,
I think it'd be infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
Water administration equipment.
I would think equipment, huh?
I would say equipment, and where are we at for that thing?
5,300 there.
F 8310.2.
Thank you.
There's $5,351. And 86 cents.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, trustee Trombley,
Aye.
trustee Martin,
All right,
trustee Trombley,
Aye.
trustee Garrett,
Aye?
and Mayor Moore, aye. Okay, I don't have any further new business. If no one else has any other new business, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just throw something out to stew about for the next month, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the village. I think that St. Mary's is becoming a drug drop at night. I've been there late almost every night doing stuff. And there are cars coming into that parking lot up until 10. I mean, they could be later. I've been there 10:15 almost every night. And I have reported it, but we have no police force. We have no nothing. But this is definitely becoming, it was getting very creepy. 2 nights. I mean, it was like regular. And one car would be in, another would come in, they'd get next to each other, the next thing they both pulled out. So I'm concerned. I think there's a lot more things going on in this village. I know we've had to do away with the police force. I did speak with Deputy Hilliker, who is the DARE officer at school. And there are options for us out there. The sheriff's department actually does have their deputies do duties for villages. I mean, obviously it costs, but we can hire them without hiring another staff. Just to have a presence on a regular basis back in the village, and we might want to think about that, especially weekend nights. Maybe it's a part-time thing to start with, but just start something to stew about. We have a lot of drunkenness downtown, as you all know. You know, anytime you guys come in late at night and you're going by there, there's always issues. The state troopers are regular in here. But it's something to think about and to keep in mind. I just wanted to put that all in your heads to start thinking about it, because I have some great concerns.
I had a discussion with one of the deputy sheriffs at a stop DWI meeting, and I asked him what we need to do to have more police coverage here in the village.
Mhm.
Because there is a sheriff's vehicle, but it's primary, and it's part of what Larry's saying with the sheriff. It's a personnel thing where they're, in this grant process, it's paying for a deputy to drive around up here.
Yes.
And if, according to this Sergeant Mercer, I probably should use his name, but he suggested that we as the village board, write the sheriff a letter requesting that more speed enforcement take place on Elm Street, Church Street, and Main Street. You know, the 3 main thoroughfares here. And also request whatever, you know, additional services were needed.
Such as
I really don't, I suppose we have to if we're going to do this, but I don't really think that we should have to pay extra for the sheriff to do the job in the county.
Right. And there is grant money out there. I was told the same thing, to get more coverage.
And
There's grant
he
money
also
available.
suggested that we send a letter to the state police.
I was just gonna ask, I mean, there's, you know, an increase in enforcement in state officers in this area as well.
And the border patrol as well.
Yeah, so we do the same with them.
Jeff and I went to the meeting in Ross's Point, and they were using some of that grant money to pay for foot patrol. And Ross's Point, I see Ross's Point vehicles up here in the village all the time.
Yeah.
They're sheriff, they're police cars and
So that's,
stuff.
yeah, Ross's Point
And
and
the
Sheriff.
sheriff, the blazers and stuff, they're here all the time. They're patrolling through the village.
And they're patrolling for Rouse's Point. Yes, Rouse's Point sends them here for us.
No, it's a
That's what
border
I was
initiative.
told. Okay,
It's a border initiative.
It's all border, it's all through grant money from the border.
okay. Well, I know Super.
It's called
okay,
foot patrol.
okay.
It seems like there's enough law enforcement in the area, we just have to have them.
Well, and
So
it's
I
very
would- I
secluded
would
down
put
there, and you can't see what's going on. I mean, it's its own little protected spot down there.
Well, they do have, I know when you go through the camp,
Yes.
they do have a thing you can set up and somebody pulls in, it takes a picture of your plate.
Yeah, they give those.
So, and they have them cameras and cones too.
That's why we need to put on that.
I don't think we need to vote, we just, I think everybody's in agreement, we should call them and see what they,
Send them a letter. ask
let them
for
know
more.
where the troubles, like, Amy could call them and let them know where the trouble spots are. And,
Well,
I know they used to for a while, they used to drive through some of these areas pretty much nightly. And I haven't, I gotta admit, I haven't seen that in the last few years.
Well,
I think it would be, I mean, a phone call is great, but I also think it needs to be followed up, documented with a letter. You know, oh, we didn't get your call, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But I think a letter is probably the best.
well, even with Elm Street, it tore up and cut across for the cutting and stuff. Comes at my house one night.
That's a wicked drop when you hit those
It's
cutoffs.
terrible.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that slows them down.
I slowed it down to a crawl.
Yeah, they could make a lot of money with speed traps in here, or not stopping at the stop signs. Could be millionaires for that, okay.
Okay,
Anyway,
thanks.
just a
Amy.
thought.
There's not being any further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, motion to adjourn, second.
I'll second.
Second, Tom. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, nay. The meeting is adjourned. Can I all catch you all for just 1 second before you leave? I did.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great. Third, is that next Tuesday?
Third Tuesday of the month,
Third Tuesday, oh, that's good, I was double booked.
7 o'clock.
Is that on?